Some secrets don't want to stay buried. They don't scream. They tick. If you've ever felt like time itself was watching you, this one's for you. Everyone in the city knew the shop on Calder Row. They just never agreed on what time it was. Some swore its clocks always ran fast. Others said slow. A few insisted the hands never moved at all, that they only appeared to when you weren't looking directly at them. The sign above the narrow door read, E. Morrow Clockmaker. No hours posted, no lights left on overnight, no record of when it had first opened. And yet it was always there. Elena Cross first noticed the problem on a Thursday that wouldn't end. She had been tracking a missing person case, routine on paper, rotten underneath. A watchmaker's apprentice, 17. Vanished somewhere between his boarding room and the factory gates. The last place anyone remembered seeing him was Calder Row, specifically stepping out of Morrow's shop. Elena checked her pocket watch out of habit. It was 3 minutes past 9. She would later swear it stayed that way for far too long. Calder Row always smelled like oil and rain, even when the sky was clear. Narrow brick buildings leaned inward like they were tired of holding themselves up. Steam vents hissed along the cobblestones, releasing brief clouds that swallowed lamplight before letting it go again. Elena walked slowly, coat buttoned high, gloved hand resting near the inside pocket where her notebook lived. She didn't rush Calder Row. The street punished haste. The clockmaker's shop sat between a shuttered tailor and a boarded apothecary. Its window was crowded with clocks of every size and design. Brass skeleton clocks with exposed gears, heavy oak grandfather cases, pocket watches laid out like fallen coins. None of them matched. Different styles, different eras, different hands, all of them ticking, not in unison, but not randomly either. Elena stopped across the street. Her pocket watch still read 3 minutes past 9. She frowned. The lamppost beside her flickered, then steadied. She crossed. The bell above the shop door did not ring when Elena pushed it open. Instead, the sound came a half-second later, as if the door had waited to see if she truly meant to enter. Warmth rolled out to meet her. Not cozy warmth, mechanical warmth. The steady, breathing heat of 100 moving parts. The shop was deeper than it looked from outside. Shelves climbed the walls, packed with clock faces, gears, springs, glass domes. Work tables crowded the center, each holding half-dismantled mechanisms frozen mid-repair. And everywhere, ticking. A low, layered sound. Thousands of small hearts beating out of sync. Elena Cross, a voice said calmly from the back of the shop. She stopped dead. Her hand slid inside her coat. I didn't introduce myself, she said. No, the voice agreed. But time does. From behind a tall rack of pendulum arms, a man stepped into view. Edwin Morrow was older than she'd expected. Not elderly, just worn in the way precision tools are worn. His hair was iron gray, pulled back neatly. His fingers were stained with oil and metal dust. His eyes, sharp and assessing, flicked briefly to her pocket watch. You're early, he said. Elena glanced down. Her watch still read 3 minutes past 9. I don't think I am, she replied. Morrow smiled faintly. That's what they all say. Elena wasted no time. I'm looking for a boy, she said. Name's Thomas Hale. Worked for you. Morrow nodded once. Yes. You saw him the night he disappeared. Yes. Did he leave this shop? Morrow tilted his head, considering the question with infuriating care. He stopped being here, he said. Elena's jaw tightened. That's not an answer. It's the only accurate one. She stepped closer, letting the weight of her badge show just enough. People don't stop being places, Mr. Morrow. They leave them. Morrow's gaze softened, just a fraction. Detective, he said gently. This is a clock shop. You'd be surprised how many ways there are to stop. Elena felt a prickle at the base of her neck. Why was he here after hours? She asked. He was learning, Morrow replied. He was curious. And that killed him? No, Morrow said. That saved him. Elena stared at him. Outside, somewhere far away, a clock chimed. Inside the shop, none of the clocks reacted. Morrow gestured to a work table. May I? He asked, nodding toward her pocket watch. Elena hesitated. Then, against her better judgment, she handed it over. Morrow opened it, peered inside, and frowned. This one's wrong, he said. Elena bristled. It was my father's. I don't mean broken, Morrow said. I mean out of alignment. He turned the watch so she could see. The gears inside were pristine, well-maintained, loved. But one tiny mark had been etched into the inner casing, a symbol Elena didn't recognize. When did this appear? Morrow asked. Elena's stomach dropped. It wasn't there before, she said. Morrow closed the watch gently and handed it back. Then you've already been touched by the problem, he said. The problem being what? Morrow looked around his shop. Time, he said, being handled by people who don't understand what it costs. At the very back of the shop stood a tall case clock, unlike any of the others. No glass, no visible pendulum, no ticking. Its face was blank. Elena felt drawn to it in the same way one feels drawn to an unanswered question. What's that one? She asked. Morrow followed her gaze. His expression tightened. That, he said quietly, is the only clock in this shop that tells the truth. Elena stepped closer. Her pocket watch chose that moment to tick. Once. Loud. The blank clock's face shifted. A single hand appeared and began to move. Elena did not move when the hand appeared on the blank clock. She watched it advance with the same slow certainty as any ordinary second hand. Yet it made no sound, no tick, no whir. It moved like a thought completing itself. Morrow stood very still beside her. That clock wasn't wound, she said. It never is, he replied. And yet it's running. Yes. Elena slipped her pocket watch into her coat and stepped back, creating space between herself and the thing that shouldn't exist. Is this a trick? She asked. A novelty? Some mechanical illusion? Morrow shook his head. No gears, he said. No springs. No escapement. She laughed once, sharp. Then it isn't a clock. It's a ledger, he corrected. It keeps track of what's owed. The single hand stopped. Elena waited for something dramatic. Nothing happened. She exhaled through her nose. You expect me to believe a boy vanished because of that? No, Morrow said. I expect you to believe he chose to stay. They sat at a narrow work table near the front window. Elena took notes the old way. Pen, paper, no recording devices. Something about the shop made her distrust anything that stored information electronically. Calder Row's been strange longer than I've been alive, Morrow said. Before factories, before steam lines, before the city learned how to pretend it understood itself. People disappear here, Elena said. They always have. And you don't find that troubling? I find it consistent, he replied. The row sits where time folds thin, not broken, thin. Most people walk through it without noticing. And Thomas? She asked. He noticed. Elena's pen stilled. What did he notice? That the clocks disagreed, Morrow said. That the city told one story and time told another. Morrow rose and moved to a shelf, selecting a small brass pocket watch. He opened it and set it on the table. It began to tick. He placed another beside it. This one ticked slower. A third. This one did not tick at all. All correct, Morrow said, depending on where you stand. Elena's pulse quickened. And you? She asked. Where do you stand? Morrow met her gaze. Behind the counter, he said, trying to keep the debts from spilling into the street. Elena left the shop an hour later with more questions than answers. Outside, Calder Row was unchanged. Steam hissed. Lamps glowed. People passed at the edges without ever stepping fully into the street. She walked 2 blocks and checked her watch. 3 minutes past 9. Her breath caught. She hurried, boots striking stone harder than before, until she reached the central avenue. Electric clocks above shop doors read different times. 9:13, 9:40, 10:02. People moved without confusion. She stopped a passerby. Excuse me, she said. Do you know what time it is? The woman glanced at the clock above a cafe. Just past 9, she said, unconcerned. Which 9? Elena pressed. The woman frowned, as if trying to understand a poorly phrased joke. Detective, she said carefully, eyeing Elena's badge. It's just 9. And then she walked away. Elena stood there, heart pounding. The city didn't notice the disagreement. It never had. Back at the precinct, Elena pulled old records. Missing persons clustered near Calder Row. Apprentices, laborers, couriers, people who worked with measured things. Time cards, schedules, ledgers. The reports always ended the same way. Unable to confirm time of disappearance. Last seen behaving normally. No signs of distress. She found one note, handwritten, decades old. Subject appeared to linger. Elena closed the file. Thomas Hale's face stared back at her from the folder. 17. Curious eyes. A faint smudge of grease at his temple in the photo. He chose to stay, Morrow had said. The idea made her angry. Choice required understanding, and Thomas had been a boy. Elena returned to Calder Row after midnight. She hadn't planned to. Her feet simply took her there. The shop window glowed. She pushed the door open. The bell rang immediately this time. Morrow stood behind the counter, sleeves rolled up, hands deep in the open body of a large standing clock. "You shouldn't be here," Elena said. "You came anyway," he replied. "Thomas didn't understand what he was doing," she said. "Whatever you showed him, whatever you let him touch, he wasn't equipped to consent." Morrow's hands stilled. "He understood more than you think," he said quietly, "and less than he needed." He stepped aside. "Come see," he said. Against every rule she'd ever learned, Elena followed. Behind the shop lay a narrow stair, descending into darkness. The air grew cooler, heavier. At the bottom was a room without windows, lit by a single hanging bulb. The walls were lined with clocks, dozens of them, all stopped. In the center stood a chair. Not restrained, not trapped, occupied. Thomas Hale looked up as they entered. He was pale, but alive, older somehow. His eyes were steady in a way that made Elena's chest ache. "Detective," he said politely. "You're late." Elena rushed forward. "Thomas," she said, "we've been looking for you." "I know," he replied. "I heard the clocks arguing." Morrow stayed near the door. "He can leave," Morrow said, "if he chooses." Elena turned sharply. "Then why hasn't he?" Thomas answered before Morrow could. "Because if I do," he said, "something else takes my place." Thomas gestured to the clocks. "They're balances," he said. "Moments that didn't resolve. Seconds that tried to stretch longer than they should have." Elena frowned. "You're saying the clocks are holding time?" "Excess time," Thomas corrected. "Borrowed time." Morrow nodded. "Every miracle costs a minute somewhere else." Elena's breath came shallow. "And you volunteered to pay?" Thomas smiled faintly. "I noticed the pattern," he said. "Someone always disappeared when things got too uneven." Calder Row was bleeding. "So you trapped yourself?" Elena demanded. "No," Thomas said gently. "I stabilized it." Elena turned to Morrow, fury flaring. "You let a child do this." Morrow met her gaze without flinching. "He wasn't the first," he said. "Just the youngest who noticed." Morrow stepped closer to Elena. "You're here because your watch is marked," he said. "Because you already feel time slipping where it shouldn't." Elena felt suddenly cold. "What are you suggesting?" "That Thomas can go home," Morrow said. "And someone else can sit the chair." Silence swallowed the room. Thomas looked at Elena. "I didn't expect it to be you," he said. "But it makes sense." Elena's mind raced. "This isn't justice," she said. "It's exploitation." "It's maintenance," Morrow replied. "And it works." Thomas stood slowly. "I don't want to be the reason it breaks," he said. "I've held it long enough to know what that would look like." Elena looked at the chair, at the stopped clocks, at the boy who had given up his future to hold the city together. Her watch ticked. Once. Elena stepped forward. No, she said. There's another way. Morrow shook his head. If there were, I would have found it. Then you weren't looking hard enough, she said. She pulled the pocket watch from her coat and opened it. The etched symbol glowed faintly. What happens, she asked, if the debt holder moves? Morrow's eyes widened. You'd fracture the row. Or reset it, Elena said. Thomas inhaled sharply. You'd lose time, he said. Not minutes. Years. Elena closed the watch. Then it's mine to lose. She turned to Thomas. Go, she said, while the door still opens. He hesitated. Then he ran. The clocks screamed. The moment Thomas crossed the threshold of the back stair, the shop screamed. Not audibly, not in any way that sound could have captured. Every clock in the room lurched at once. Hands spun, springs shrieked, glass cracked outward, spiderwebbing across faces that had never shown fear before. The stopped clocks along the walls jerked violently, some jumping forward, others snapping backward, as if trying to escape their own measurement. Elena staggered as the floor seemed to tilt. Time did not reverse, it misaligned. Moments overlapped. She saw Morrow standing in 3 places at once, younger, older, and exactly as he was now. The hanging bulb flickered between bright and burnt out. Shadows moved before their owners. This was not the agreement, Morrow said, voice strained. There was never an agreement, Elena shouted back. Just a habit. She slammed the pocket watch shut. The etched symbol flared. The clocks froze. All at once, silence fell so hard it hurt. Elena collapsed to one knee. The world steadied, but it did not return to normal. Her breath came shallow, disjointed. She pressed a gloved hand to her chest and felt gaps. Not pain, absence. Morrow knelt beside her, his face pale for the first time. What have you done? He whispered. Elena tried to answer. Her mind reached for a memory. Her first case. Her badge ceremony. Her father's face the day he taught her to wind a watch properly. Nothing came. She looked at her hands, suddenly unsure how long she'd known them. I reset the balance, she said slowly, choosing words with care because thoughts were slipping away like loose screws. The road doesn't need a holder anymore. And you? Morrow asked. Elena met his eyes. I paid, she said. He swallowed. Years, not minutes, just as Thomas had warned. Outside, the city exhaled. For the first time in generations, Calder Row aligned with the rest of the world. Thomas Hale stepped into daylight and did not vanish. He walked until the street opened into something familiar, until the clocks above shop doors agreed, until the city felt solid again. When he reached his boarding house, the door opened on the first knock. You're late, his landlady said sharply, then froze. Thomas smiled. I know, he said. I got lost in the right place. He went to sleep that night without hearing clocks argue. Calder Row changed, not dramatically, not in a way that invited comment. The steam vents still hissed. The bricks still leaned, but the unease drained from the place, like oil seeping out of old machinery. Morrow's shop remained, but something fundamental had shifted. The blank clock at the back never moved again. It didn't need to. Elena returned once more, days later, her stride uncertain but determined. She felt lighter and frighteningly incomplete. "You don't remember?" Morrow said gently. Elena shook her head. "Pieces," she said. "Feelings without anchors. I know I was important to something. Once." "You were," Morrow said. Elena turned her pocket watch over in her hands. The etched symbol was gone. Inside, the gears ticked normally. "Can you tell me who I was?" she asked. Morrow considered. "I could," he said, "but that would be another kind of theft." She smiled faintly. "Figures." She clipped the watch back into her coat. "Whatever I lost," she said, "I chose it." "Yes," Morrow replied, "and the city keeps running because of it." Elena turned toward the door. "Then don't waste it," she said. "You or the clocks." Morrow bowed his head. "I won't." Years later, the city would forget Calder Row ever had a reputation. No disappearances, no anomalies, no unresolved ledgers, just a narrow street where time behaved itself. Morrow aged. Elena did not return. Somewhere else in the city, a woman with sharp instincts and an unshakable sense of justice solved cases without knowing why she trusted her timing so completely. She never noticed what she'd lost, but sometimes, when checking the hour, she felt a brief, inexplicable certainty. Time could be held accountable, and that was enough. Thank you for staying until the very last second. Some stories remind us that time isn't just something we pass through, it's something we're responsible for. If this one stayed with you, I'd love to hear what moment clicked into place. And if you'd like more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and come back soon. Until next time, take care of the time you're given.